Hello, hello. This is Arielle Silver, and welcome to another episode of Tomes and Tunes. I am so happy to be here for episode 60. And let's see here. We have today on the show for this I don't know. I just feel like it's a monumental moment, 60 episodes. We have Clare Means. She is a singer-songwriter, and she'll tell us where she's based at the moment, but she has done busking for years and years, and I've been a little bit intrigued to talk with her because a long time ago I was a busker in Harvard Square and in the Boston subways, and it's quite an interesting life playing music on the street. So she's been doing it for a long time as well, and is kind of a warrior at it. So I'm excited to talk with her. What else should I tell you? Episode 60. If you are just tuning in for the first time, I am a Los Angeles-based singer-songwriter and also a yoga studio owner, and I teach creative writing as well. And I just love books and I love music, and I thought, wow, what better way to spend COVID than to talk with songwriters about books. And then, of course, now as the world is starting to open up and emerge, and venues are starting to open up, at least here in where we're living here in Southern California, the world is changing. It's in constant flux and change anyway, and this has been a really interesting year and a half. But this show, Tomes and Tunes, has just been so uplifting and really great conversations with other songwriters during this time, with the occasional airplane flying over from Burbank. Hello up there. It's just going to keep going, and happy to bring you in, Claire. I'm going to bring you in right now. Hey.
Hey, Arielle. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And I just want to say, hey, Manda, thanks for tuning in. Oh, yeah, Harvard Square. I want to say, I forgot to mention in the intro that Manda and I are playing a show tomorrow night, Friday, July 16th, at Ojai Underground Exchange with Pi Jacobs and also Celia Chavez. So anyway, Claire, you are missing this great show, but there's my little bit about it.
Is it in Ojai?
It's in Ojai, yeah,
Oh,
Ojai,
cool.
and it's going to be
Ojai's
a live
beautiful.
stream as well. So,
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So, okay, I didn't want to talk too much about this, but you have spent a lot of time in Los Angeles. You are not from LA originally, and where are you right now?
I am currently in North Carolina, and but I played LA. Basically, started playing music right before I came to LA. So yeah, LA has been my
Wow.
my main musical beginnings and stuff. And did a year or so into it, I started doing street performing, and that kind of became my main way in the beginning of reaching my audience. So yeah, busking on Santa Monica and Santa Monica Pier and 3rd Street Promenade and stuff. So
Yeah. Wow, so you started playing music just before you moved to LA. Why did you move to LA?
I didn't really know why. I was
sunshine, nice people. I don't know.
My older sister was moving out to New Mexico, and I kind of tagged along with her for a month, and I don't know. I was just feeling adventurous, I guess.
Totally.
And so just ended up in Los Angeles somehow.
Because you're an East Coast girl originally.
Yes,
just like me.
Yes, exactly.
I think there's something about that. People have just moved west. There's just something about that. Not everybody, obviously, but there's, for some of us, this just a call to just keep pushing to the edge of the continent, and for some people beyond it.
Yeah. I just always I just love adventure and something different, and I guess throwing yourself into something that's totally different. Yeah. So I guess that was me trying to, I don't know, be different or something.
Yeah, and just maybe have some adventures or...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so when you got here, you said that you started busking pretty soon after that.
Yeah.
What was that? Why... Can you put yourself mentally, scroll back in the memory? What was it that brought you on the first time? Why did you do that?
Well, I had my best friend, actually, she's still one of my, she's probably, still one of my 3 best friends or so. She was working at Guitar Center, and but in the in this, I don't know, in an office position, a smarty pants position. But anyway, and I think she was oh, we could go. She was living in Santa Monica, and she was we could go in together with my discount on this amp and do some busking together, because we had met at an open mic, one of the first open mics I played. And yeah, at Talking Stick in Santa Monica. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, we
yes,
met
yes,
there.
yes.
And so yeah, she was like, "Hey, they sell these battery powered amps. We could go in together and do this in the Santa Monica Promenade." So it was actually her idea, but she got super busy with work. So we went out a couple times together, but she was super busy with work, and also like, she had like a very practical career, as well as, whereas I was, I was a waitress and trying to do music. So, and busking kind of took over, and I really, I started making more money busking than waitressing and having more fun. And it's so hard to do like both, honestly. I was trying to do both for a little while, but you're just like exhausted because both jobs are pretty tiring. And I just figured, well, if I'm, might as well, put all this energy into busking instead. And music in general, not just busking, but yeah, in Los Angeles, I'm sure like it's hard to get paying gigs on a regular basis, and yeah, and it's kind of nice like busking because you could also play whatever you want to if you do get paying gigs on a regular basis in LA. Sometimes maybe it would be like a hotel or like a restaurant gig where you have to play a bunch of covers, but busking you can pretty much do whatever you want and make your own schedule and go to work or not go to work, and you don't get fired. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of benefits. You try out new things and like not feel the pressure of messing up because it's okay, you're just playing on the street. So yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
People are just passing by. So if you whatever, you make a clam, or whatever,
Yeah.
people are just walking by, and if you sound pretty good, then they'll stop and hang out for a while.
Yeah. How about you? How did you get started in Boston, or what influenced you?
Well, I've been playing music my whole life. I was a woodwind player growing up. I
Oh.
had a really great music program in my public school system when I was in New Jersey as a kid.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it as a child. Like, wow, this is unusual. But I think now as an adult, I can look back and out here in LA, I look at the local schools and I'm like, wow, there's no music program, or it's just sort of a side after school thing for some kids if they want to stay in school longer, but
Yeah.
but for us it was really like a part of the curriculum, and everybody played an instrument. And my babysitter when I was in 4th grade, she played clarinet, so I picked clarinet in the band
Aw.
the band instruments. And one thing that for me, that sort of accompanied being a performing musician from the time I was 0, or 7, all the way up, was this. It wasn't debilitating, but it was a lot of stage fright, a lot of anxiety about performing, and I figured out how to work around it somehow here and there. I actually think that it was because of that I would go to auditions in high school, and I would sit in the hallway waiting for these state band or orchestra auditions, and that was where I think I learned to breathe. I mean, besides the fact that I was a woodwind player, but that was where I learned to use breathing as just a way to calm my stress nervous system. And scroll forward, I started playing guitar and writing songs in college. And then I still was grappling with this stage fright thing. And at some point I was like, you know what, I need to get over this, or get through it, or figure it out, kind of like chop it into little pieces so it was digestible. And I thought, maybe busking would be a great way to do that, because I can perform every day if I want to. I can perform as much as I want to, and just getting into that scenario where I'm performing, I hoped would, help to eradicate that, that anxiety. It did to an extent. And then at some point when I started playing shows in clubs, I realized that, when you're busking, you're on street level, you're on the sidewalk or the street with people. And then as soon as I was on a stage that was like a foot off the ground, raised in any way, all of a sudden that stage fright, came back. So then I was like, okay, this is going to be a step-by-step progression for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big
part.
part of it for me. So for you, it was more of like you wanted a job. Like you had a job waitressing, but it was like, well, I like this better.
Yeah, I started it for the fun of it. And then I was like, the first day I went out there, I mean, I had recorded like, one of the first open mics I went to, it's funny when you look back, one of the first open mics I went to, I met a guy, and he told me about the guy he hired me to like sing backups, which I was like, that's so cool, because I just started singing. Hired me to sing backups on this album he was recording, or song he was recording, and I met the guy, that was recording, the producer, and we became friends, and then I recorded like 3 songs with him. So before I started, this is like, I just started playing, and I basically, and I recorded those 3 songs like, nothing like planned out, not to a click track, just basically acoustic and him playing like violin and piano on top of it, like very quickly done. And I burned those 3 songs to CDs, and so yeah, then when I went out busking, I was like, whoa, it sold a CD, so that kind of like, it was like super loud, and I picked a bad spot. It was super loud, and but I was still just that like little bit of encouragement, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's just fun, and yeah, so I just started doing it, and then I did think, okay, I prefer this to be my job, because I kind of suck at waitressing, and this is fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I keep thinking about, what was my gear when I was busking, and I had a car battery and and some kind of converter to hook the amp up to the battery. Is that what your setup was?
I had a Crate Limo, which is an amazing amp. And it was actually somewhat, I think at the time it was about the same as it was $400, but then with her discount it was like $200, but it had like great effects, reverb and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they stopped making it a couple years ago, unfortunately. I don't know why, because it was an awesome amp. But there's some other ones that are battery powered, but I really did love that Crate Limo. Now I have a really great one that I use, called an AER, that like some of my folks that watch me on Periscope chipped in to get me. That one's like kind of fancy and nice, but yeah, for an affordable one, that Crate Limo was a really great one. But yeah, I didn't have to do the car battery thing, which was nice. Yeah, but that's a great option, because you can use any old PA system. If you bring the battery yourself. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
So you go out there with all your gear, you set up your stand, your boom stand, your mic, and you're standing there, with your amp there, and there's a moment before you start playing. For me, I used to have to sort of, I don't know, there was this moment of like complete anonymity. Uh-huh. And then all of a sudden you're singing into an amplifier, and people can hear you. Do you ever think about that moment, or are you just so used to doing it that at this point you don't even think about it? It's just plug in, start playing.
Yeah, I guess I don't really think about that moment, but now that you mention it, sometimes when I'm setting up, I think people just have these like, they have these ideas about street performers that they're like desperate, you know what I mean? So sometimes when I was setting up, when I looked at people looking at me, I'm like, they probably think I suck, or like they don't, or like sometimes I've had little kids. Well, once I had a little kid ask me, like, are you homeless? Like they think you're really, desperate, if you're out there performing in the street. Little do they know that actually it pays better than a lot of gigs in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? It depends on the gig, and it depends on how many tickets but you can only play the same place and bring out the folks, a certain amount of folks so many times, but you know what I mean? So the cool thing about street performing is you have all those thousands of new people passing you, and then you can bring them to the gigs.
Right.
But yeah, I have thought when I'm setting up, like, oh, like that shopkeeper looks like I'm going to be too loud and is like annoyed I'm setting up too close. You know what I mean? Yeah, those kind of, especially in new places, or like, yeah, I've been shut down by police before in other places that I've tried.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm, keeping an eye out. But yeah, there is the moment where you're setting up and I kind of think people probably think I'm a little crazy or something, or desperate or weird for setting up music. But in Santa Monica, there's so many street performers.
Yeah, there's a really great
it's a whole, like,
culture
network
there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Harvard Square in that way, where it's just like a great street performing culture. People go there in part for the street performers.
There's a street performer that plays on the pier and the promenade, and his name was Ned. I don't know what his last name was, but
from Boston.
From Boston, yeah.
I know him. Yeah,
you do.
Flathead. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
He used to play in Harvard Square. Yeah, we have a mutual friend. In fact, Eric, who is a mutual friend of ours, he sometimes tunes in on this show, so he might say hi in the comments at some point in time.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Really, really phenomenally talented person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said something a moment ago about homelessness and people conflating performing songwriters or performing musicians with the people who are unhoused and living on the street. And
Yeah.
that story, like the close proximity in people's minds between those two ideas, and this idea, I was talking with Shane Alexander last week on this show about the idea of starving artist mentality, and this there's something that I think I'm trying to figure out that I've been thinking about it, my whole life, I think, but also, or more specifically in the past couple of weeks, about how people, the general public, how they view musicians, how they view artists, and the lack of understanding that it is possible to, like, there's a lot of middle ground between starving and celebrity. There's that whole middle class, section, and nobody, looks at every other profession that people are in, that they don't just assume that either you're starving or you're a celebrity. Yeah. And yet with musicians, there's this assumption that, like, there's this black hole in the middle that people don't realize is there.
It is funny. Yeah, I know, like, Ari Hurston, like, in his, his book about, like, how to make it in the music business, and he talks about a bunch of different things, and I was in the live streaming section about Periscope and stuff, but yeah, and I think he's, like, said that in some tweets or something. I remember him saying that, like yeah, people think either as a musician you're either, like, completely broke, in debt, struggling, don't have a place to sleep, or you're, like, super famous and rich. Yeah, and there's so many amazingly talented, like, middle class musicians, that are just making, like, a normal living, raising a family on it, but, not celebrities, and, are super talented. And yeah, it is crazy that people have this, it's just, I guess the idea of, yeah, people just think, yeah, that especially in America, like, I think the American dream of, like, success in whatever you do, and for some reason in the arts, it's either you're a celebrity or you're a failure. Yeah, I guess. So I guess that's where that comes from. I mean, I think a lot of it maybe has to do with, I don't know, American culture in terms of, like, you've got to win at everything and be the best, and you know what I mean, like. I don't know. I'm just
yeah. I don't know either. And then there's this other kind of related idea, which is that I've been thinking about a lot lately too, which is I think part of our job, yours, mine, all of the indie musicians or middle class musicians or working artists, all of us, I think that part of our job, unspoken job description, is to educate our fans on how to be good fans, how to not just consume but support. Yeah. Right. How not to just especially take. Yeah. Right. But yeah, exactly. They can tune into any live stream and just consume that and that whatever it is that they're taking in on the live stream without helping to support that artist who's performing on that live stream, or in venue or on the street, or wherever it is, traditional or non-traditional platform that you're performing. How do you educate your audience?
Well, yeah, I mean, music has changed, like, the music business has changed so much. I mean, in the past, when did Spotify come around? I don't know, like, in the past, like, 8 years, I can't remember.
Longer than,
I guess that probably iTunes changed it somewhat, and that people are buying it digitally and maybe not paying quite as much. But, like, now it's like, everything we do in terms of recordings is out there for free, basically. I mean, we do get paid something from Spotify, but very minimal, Yeah. So yeah, but I feel so grateful, so grateful that even though that's the situation, that there are things like live streaming, and there are fans out there that are so supportive, that support not to, like, I mean, I love when people buy merchandise. By the way, I'm having sales on my website because like I'm going back to LA and I need to move out of my storage unit. So the super sales on my website. But anyway, but not only by like buying merchandise where they get something in return, but some people just like, hey, you know, I enjoy these live streams and I want to give you this support, this tip. And like, you know, some of it's pretty substantial. And it's, I mean, even if it's not, even if it's just, you know, a couple bucks, like just the fact that they don't have to do that, but they're doing that is so nice. Yeah. So I don't feel like I don't, oh, can you still hear me? Suddenly I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh, you muted. Okay. Oh, you're muting of airplane. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like my fans have taught me a lot in terms of like generosity because yeah, I mean, if, you know, I have like, let's say, you know, if I'm driving by and there's like a homeless guy on the side of the road, which I'd always hope that I would still like want to donate. But then, you know, if I'm like, I'm just going to drive past, but I think about like all these people that have donated to me just playing music, you know, putting out there for free and they don't even have to donate. You know, I mean, it spreads the love. You know what I mean? Like it makes you think in a way like, wow, why shouldn't I be, you know, generous with this artist or this person that, you know, this person that needs this or that or whatever that. But yeah, so I think in a lot of ways my fans have taught me a lot about that in terms of, I mean, I would hope that I would still be generous if they hadn't taught me that, but
you're talking about like keeping the energy flowing.
Yeah,
like you're receiving, you're giving, you're receiving, and keep giving and receiving.
That sounds like cycle. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like some hippie stuff the way I said it. But hey, hippies are cool. No, yeah, you know, I guess so. But at the same time, yeah, sometimes. But you know, I also sometimes mention, hey, you know. Yeah, if you'd like to, you know, sometimes I do also encourage tips as well because it is a free, you know, most of the live streams are free, you know, I mean, they're all, you know, basically, except for like the Hotel Cafe one that I'm doing in August, of course, like has a ticket price. But yeah, most of them are free. So, you know, I do like occasionally mention, you know, hey, if you want a tip for bits or subs or whatever, you can. But yeah, but I think we're all learning like the world just changes so quickly and like, I mean, live streaming has been around for a long time, but a lot of people I know weren't even like as soon as 2020 happened, you know, suddenly I had some musicians like ask me like, oh, can you give me some advice on live streaming because a lot of people, you know, had even though it's been around for a while, a lot of people really hadn't done it until quarantine, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just keeps changing. I mean, now like more people, even though the quarantine is being lifted and stuff, I mean, now it's kind of like part of, you know, it's more essential part of the music culture, you know. I think like now Hotel Cafe is saying, like when I ask them to book a gig, they're also like, do you want to sell live stream tickets for it, you know? And before in 2016, actually, I remember I had reached out to the Hotel Cafe about doing a Periscope meetup, and I was like, everybody's going to be live streaming the show, just so you know. And at that time, they were like, oh, we really don't like it when people live stream the show. But now they're actually like selling like live stream tickets to their own shows, which is pretty awesome. You know, they've adapted to the times in that way. And quarantine encouraged that. So, I mean, you know, there's some things that have COVID has changed, I think, in that way. That even though it's going back to normal,
yeah, people have had to adapt in many ways. Yeah, totally. The show that I'm playing tomorrow night at the Ojai Underground Exchange is one of these hybrid shows where it's in venue and also you know, live stream ticketed. So it's behind a paywall and there are, you know, different tiers that you can support the venue and the artists. And, you know, I think that this part about the education piece, I guess, is, you know, I really hope that all of us will remember 2020, really, when so many venues, I mean, they're still struggling, right? So, like, right now, venues are starting to open up again. I hope that we forget things really quickly as a culture, right? I hope that we can remember that, you know, purchasing tickets for a live show or for a live stream for, you know, a venue or even, you know, just on one of these streaming platforms supports the artists, which means it supports the continued creation of the art. And then also when it's in a venue, you know, it helps to support the venue, which, you know, they're meeting places, they're community spots, and I think that they're really vital, you know, for all of our communities, you know. Yeah. Not just us as performers, but Gosh, I mean, music does save our souls, in a lot of ways. Claire, I'm curious when you made the leap from busking on the street to
Mm-hmm.
live streaming, and was there a period of time where you did both?
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah. What
Um,
made you leap over? They're not un they're not dissimilar, right? It's a
yeah.
little bit similar
They're
in terms of the kind of
mhm.
show that you're giving, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. In 2015, a a guy who had come out to see me play a couple times. He heard me playing on the promenade and bought an album and like would come out. Then he was come out to the pier a couple times to see me. He had his phone up, and while I was playing on the pier, and he was saying, "Oh, they're sending you hearts on Periscope."
Ah.
And I'd heard of Periscope before. I think it had been around for 6 months, almost 6 months it had been around for, yeah. And so I was like, but I was kind of like, what is this Periscope thing again, And then he told me about it, and he showed me how like it was doing, just doing it from his phone, just open up the app and like put in a title, and they just go live, and so that night I was thinking, that night when he showed me that, I'm like, you know what? I have a good feeling about this. Like, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this every time I street perform. I'm going to also put out my phone and do the Periscope thing because it's free, and except for data. At the time I had like limited data. But yeah, I was like, I'll do it at least for a half an hour, and on the way out, I talked to another visual artist on the pier, and I told him about it, and he's like, Claire, yeah, I have a good feeling for you. This is like a thing. Do this. He's like, pay the extra in data and just like do it every day. I have a feeling this is going to be a good thing for you. So yeah, so the next day I downloaded it, or maybe even that night, I can't remember. And then the next time I went live, I did it, and the first few times it was of course very slow. One of my first like fans from Periscope is in here, Carrie. Carrie heard me like before, I don't know, when I had like 10 followers or something. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. And yeah, so then I just did it every time I went live on the pier or the promenade or whatever, and gigs. And then I started doing it from home and stuff. And then Periscope died in March. Well, yeah, died in March basically. And then but I'd already kind of started to transition over to Twitch.
Yeah.
And yeah, so now I mostly do Twitch, but occasionally do Facebook and YouTube and, all
Yeah.
the places or whatever. But yeah.
So you were doing both of them until COVID, and then you just went 100% to the live stream.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And you mentioned that when you cross from east to west or going back west to east across the country, you might do a busking type of tour.
Yeah.
How do you feel about busking on the street again after this year plus of just being on screen?
Well, I'm excited. I did it in Nashville. When I played my first gig with my friend Auburn in Nashville, and also I played at my other friend in Nashville's little barbecue for her, but yeah, for graduation, like little outdoor gathering. We were all vaccinated. But anyway, yeah. So I got to do it in Nashville, and I was like, man, I miss this. Like, just I love live streaming, and definitely like my biggest supporters are people I've met. I mean, 90% of them, 90% of my biggest supporters, I'd say, are people I met live streaming. I still have some people I met in the promenade on the pier that are, have been super supportive as well, and like I met them pre-live streaming. But yeah, I just love I love doing it in person too, because it's just a different thing. Like you're connecting, and they're in the same space as you. And with live streaming, you have to like, I worry more about like, oh, how do I look? Whereas like when you're performing and you're like, in front of a live audience, I just kind of sometimes close my eyes and I just, it just feels, it just is something super exciting. Performing is so fun, and it's just such a fun way to connect with people, like. So yeah, I'm excited to do street performing. I have realized that I don't necessarily have to do as much street performing as I used to, because I do have this wonderful online community, which is great, because as you probably know, there's like some downsides to street performing. I mean, sometimes it's not always safe feeling. I mean, I've met a lot of wonderful people, but I've also had some like slightly, scary things, been robbed and stuff. And,
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
there's not as much of a barrier. There are ups and downsides, right? Like when you're on a screen, all people are getting is the audio visual. They're getting a
Yeah.
two-dimensional image of
They
you.
can't
You're
touch you.
moving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well and that's the upside, right? Like,
Yeah.
when you're in person, you can just it's a three-dimensional, multi-dimensional experience. And so, you know, when you see a live performance, it's like you're getting the energy of the person's movement and just like being in that space together. And then when you're watching an on-screen performance, it's just this two-dimensional
Yeah.
thing, and the sound of it, which is going through a bunch of technology to get to people's ears.
Yeah.
It's like there are pluses and minuses, but when you're on the screen, you do have that protective barrier, which especially when you're on the street, there's no separation.
Yeah.
People can come too close. They can move too fast.
Yeah. There's like, I've had some crazy, like being robbed, followed. I had both a girl and a guy at different times like kiss me in the middle of a song. Like I'm like, what? Like crazy. They're intoxicated, both of them. Like, like getting up in your space, like what?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I like try to, I mean, but I know every street performer deals with that stuff. It's just, I mean, you just like inviting, I guess it just feels like because you're not on that stage, because it's not, you're on the same level as them.
Yeah.
People feel like they can just come up in your space. But I've also met so many wonderful people through street performing that have, because they feel like they can talk to you, people are, oh, this song, meant a lot to me because I also went through this experience. Or I don't, and also like, and speaking of like, earlier we were talking about like homeless people, like one of my like most supportive guys who'd always like help me out and like look at my stuff, watch my stuff when I'm in the bathroom and just like give back feedback about new songs and just everything. He was a homeless guy that I met in like Santa Monica, and I'm hoping he's okay through. This is like the longest I've ever gone without seeing him, because he would always like for 5 years come to, my performances and just was, a great friend to me, So I mean, I met some really, and he lived a really interesting life, so I've met some definitely like a lot of really interesting characters through street performing. And I do miss that element. And like, just all the other street performers, it's just like you kind of have to be a little crazy to get into that, so like everybody has so much like personality, and I miss some of that, I definitely miss some of that. Like just feels very alive when you're doing it, it's like the challenge of like, am I gonna like get in trouble with the police, or am I gonna get like a crazy person coming up to me like getting in my, there's like a certain risk to it that also makes you feel like alive. It's like a drug.
Interesting. I do remember it was a really sweet, interesting community when I was busking in Harvard Square. I remember, I dated a juggler who was a street performer, and then there were the other jugglers. There was Peter Panic and Jim the Juggler, and then I met.
Hopefully, he wasn't juggling women.
Actually, that juggler, the one I dated, yes, he juggled everything. Yeah. As it turns out, that was the end of that. But I remember I met this wonderful woman from Lithuania. She would do hair wraps, and she made a hat for me one time. And Eric Tellerico, who's, like I said, he sometimes chimes in here. He was one of my favorite street performers out there. I would, just sit and listen to his beautiful guitar playing and beautiful singing. And then Flathead was out there as well. And, one of just so many of my favorite songwriters in the Boston area, they would pass through the street at some point in time. And Amanda Palmer was out there at the time doing the 6 Foot Bride.
Amanda Palmer.
Yeah, that was the same. It was the same time period.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was a really vibrant community and interesting and artsy and untethered to convention in a lot of ways. Which was interesting to me. That was very interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
There's, and what you're saying, there's the upside and the downside of that lack of barrier, because the upside of it is that people come up to you and they hear your song and they tell you their story. And, and that can be, that's beautiful. That's like the human connection through story and song, which is just amazing. And then the downside is sometimes you get, you get that drunk and that drunk person coming over and kissing you in the middle of a song. It's like, no, that you just crossed a barrier that was not okay. Wow, Claire, that's so cool to hear some of these stories. One more question about your busking days. I'm wondering, what is a moment in time that you remember? I mean, is there sort of a standout moment or interaction that was just really great? Like what was your favorite or a favorite time?
Favorite? Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know. I'm trying to think. What is
I know, out of all
moment?
of them, hard to find.
Now this one is kind of incorporating both busking and live streaming, and this is kind of a boring answer, I guess, but well, there's a couple different answers. I mean, yeah, I guess like this was exciting in that I remember I was busking and suddenly like Periscope featured me, and we had all these viewers, and I just like kept super performing forever because I'm like, you're featuring, and it was just so cool because like I'd have like 5 people here, but a few like 1,000 at a time watching on the phone, and I'm just like, it was just really cool, and that was like one of the first times where I was like, oh man, the incorporating both things into one was, I don't know, it just was really cool. But in terms of like a more personal story, I mean, there's been so many times where I guess like I'm trying to think of I remember one time, and this is like probably when I was first starting, but I played my song of mine called Everybody's Room But Mine, and it's about like someone I love who went through foster care. And a couple times I've had people come tell me like how much that song meant to them and how much they like connected with that song. And I don't know, that song is like one of the more emotional songs for me. And I don't know, yeah, just to have someone like tell me like that song helped them and their situation, what they went through as a child, that like, yeah, that meant a lot to me, I guess. And also, as David Dunn is saying here in the comments, yeah, like meeting fans, especially people I've met like online and I've known for months or years, and finally meeting them in the real life, and like doing I have them up on while we're like busking to like do silly dances and stuff, for the fun of it, and just that connection of like finally meeting in person after they've been so supportive and wonderful and just funny and nice, on live stream, and meeting them in person. Yeah, that is super fun. David Dunn has like been the winner of the silly dance contest. I've like he's come out. I met him a few times, and actually, yeah, I met him. He's an astronomy professor, and I got to play in his what's it called? Planetarium, little planetarium in his college, which is pretty cool.
How wonderful is that to play at a planetarium? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
David, I want to play at that planetarium. I have a song that I want to play there. I'm just putting it out there. That is awesome. So fun, Claire. Okay, so this show is called Tomes and Tunes. The theme is talking books and swapping songs with songwriters from around the world. And so I have to ask you, what have you been reading lately?
Okay. So I've actually been reading a couple books, but very slowly because as I was saying, I've just, it's crazy with like doing music and social media and keeping up on everything. I've been an extremely slow reader lately. But yeah, this is one of the books I've been reading.
What is that?
Trevor Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just such an interesting book because it's like about him growing up during apartheid, in South Africa, and also, his dad is white and his mom is black, and and which was basically illegal, for them to be together and have a child, and during that period of time. And it's so crazy because it really like wasn't that long ago, Yeah. So, and also I just love like, I mean, he touches on like such dark stuff in it, and, I mean, racism and just apartheid and, but he also has such a sense of humor, which is what's so great about him in general. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I think and I really love that about like some songwriters too, that can touch on the dark stuff, but have a sense of humor in that, like, it makes it like I don't know, I guess makes it easier for people to listen to it, but then they also get the message at the same time, and so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, humor can be a really powerful vehicle for truth or pain,
because sometimes truth is too painful.
Yeah,
but if you add a little humor to it, I mean, I guess I don't know. My mom has a very dark sense of humor, so I've always like appreciated people that can like, shed light on the darkness by showing us the darkness, but also by saying, I mean, how do we live through darkness? But I guess find humor in it sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not always gonna be funny, but anyway, I love the way he writes, is what I'm trying to say.
Do you have a little passage or quote that you can share with us from there?
I was trying to decide, I was like, where should I read from? Well, okay. I mean, this is kind of an interesting, this is kind of interesting segment because it's also about like his family kind of looking at him differently because he was lighter skinned because he grew up with his mom's family, and them treating him differently because he was lighter skinned than his, the rest of his family, I guess. So I'm trying to think of how much I read. Okay, I'll read a little bit of this. Okay,
Give us a little something.
Okay. Yeah, maybe this is too long. Okay, one afternoon I was playing with my cousins. I was a doctor and they were my patients. I was operating on my cousin Bulawa's ear and with a set of matches when I accidentally perforated her eardrum. All hell broke loose. My grandmother came running in the kitchen. Okay, then I don't know how to say this. Quinzeka Natoni, what's happening? There was blood coming out of my cousin's head. We were all crying. My grandmother patched up Buluela's ear and made sure to stop the bleeding. But we kept crying because clearly we'd done something we were not supposed to do, and we knew we were going to be punished. My grandmother finished up Buluela's ear and whipped out a belt, and she beat the shit out of Buluela. Then she beat the shit out of Goosey too. I can't say that. Sorry. She didn't touch me. Later that night, my mother came home from work. She found my cousin with a bandage over her ear and my grand crying at the kitchen table. What's going on? My mom said. Oh. Man, they're like all these hard to pronounce names in this, sorry. Now when I'm reading out loud, I realize this. Okay, Nombesio, she said, Trevor is so naughty. He's the naughtiest child I've ever come across in my life. Then you should hit him. I can't hit him. Why not? Because I don't know how to hit a white child, he said. A black child, I understand. A black child, you can hit them and they stay black. Trevor, when you hit him, he turns blue and green and yellow and red. I've never seen those colors before. I'm scared to break him. I don't want to kill a white person. I'm so afraid. I'm not going to touch him. And she never did. I mean, this is her child, too, whereas with her other... Yeah, my grandmother treated me like I was white. My grandfather did, too. Only he was even more extreme. He called me Masta. In the car, he insisted on driving me as if he were my chauffeur. Masta must always sit in the back seat. I never challenged him on it. What was I going to say? I believe her perception of race is flawed, grandfather? No, I was 5. I sat in the back. There were so many perks to being white in a black family. I can't even front. I was having a great time. My own family basically did what the American justice system does. I was given more lenient treatment than the black kids. Misbehavior that my cousins would have been punished for, I was given a warning and let off. And I was way naughtier than either of my cousins. It wasn't even close. If something got broken or if someone was stealing my granny's cookies, it was me. I was trouble. I don't know. Oh yeah, okay, there's just a little bit more, sorry. My mom was the only force I truly feared. She believed if you spare the rod, you spoil a child. But everyone said, no, he's different, and they gave me a pass. Growing up the way I did, I learned how easy it was for white people to get comfortable with a system that awards them all the perks. I knew my cousins were getting beaten for things I'd done, but I wasn't interested in changing my grandmother's perspective because that would mean I'd get beaten too. Why would I do that? So that I'd feel better? Being beaten doesn't make me feel better. I had a choice. I could champion racial justice in her home, or I could eat Granny's cookies. I went with the cookies. Which is like, it's a really deep, but he also like, there's like a humor. I mean, not, but like you're looking at it through a kid's eyes, kind of what, he's talking about like societal stuff, but we're kind of looking at him as a kid. I don't know. I think it's an interesting comparison, the simplicity of a child is how like sometimes I guess maybe people stay out of racial issues because we're, looking at, well, I want the cookies, why would I stand up when maybe I'd have to share the cookies, or I don't know. Yeah. So, but like he has, I don't know, he has an interesting perspective on a lot of things and race. And I mean, of course, like growing up, I mean, I'm sure that like growing up, how he did, and being like basically born a crime, he was born a crime because his parents weren't even supposed to have, weren't even supposed to be together. So he was born a crime, and I'm sure that kind of led to like make him, who he is and his perspective on things and, his power with words and humor and all that stuff. So I don't know. Yeah. That was pretty.
Yeah, it's really effective the way that passage that you read starts too with that anecdote about the ear, and it's like we as readers, it's like we see the event happening and then he explains and kind of widens it and we get a bigger understanding of it. And wow, that's it's interesting. And of course, listening to it like that, we're like, oh, this is ludicrous, and but at 5 years old, of course, which would he prefer, racial justice or to get the cookies?
Yeah, chose the
which
cookies.
which would any of us choose, at 5?
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've been reading Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison the
Oh,
last couple of
cool.
weeks.
Okay, awesome.
And so this there's a lot. This is a pretty intense book, but
Yeah.
her writing is gorgeous, and I'm going to read a little piece that's uh, not quite so intense, but still, I think, just beautifully written. So the character is named Corinthians, and she is 42 years old. She just kind of woke up in a way, and she said that she kind of woke up and realized that she doesn't have a career, basically.
Okay.
And she wants to be self-sufficient. So
Yeah.
the 21 and she's black. The 21 years that she had been out of college worked against her for a teaching job. She had none of the new courses now required by the Board of Education. She considered going to the state teachers' school to take the required courses, even went to the administration building to register, but the sight of those torpedo breasts under fuzzy blue sweaters, the absolute nakedness of those young faces, drove her out of the building and off the campus like a leaf before a hailstorm. Which was too bad, because she had no real skills. Bryn Mawr had done what a four-year dose of liberal education was designed to do, unfit her for 80% of the useful work of the world. First, by training her for leisure time, enrichments, and domestic mindlessness. Second, by a clear implication that she was too good for such work. After graduation, she returned to a work world in which colored girls, regardless of their background, were in demand for one and only one kind of work. And by 1963, Corinthians' main concern was simply that her family not know that she had been doing it for 2 years. She avoided the other maids on the street, and those whom she saw regularly on the bus assumed she had some higher household position than theirs, since she came to work in high-heeled shoes, and only a woman who didn't have to be on her feet all day could stand the pressure of heels on the long ride home. Corinthians was careful. She carried no shopping bag of shoes, apron, or uniform. Instead, she had a book, a small gray book that she carried on her lap. Once she was inside Miss Graham's house, she changed into her uniform, which was a discreet blue anyway, not white, and put on a pair of loafers before she dropped to her knees with a pail of soapy water. Miss Graham was delighted with Corinthians' dress and slightly uppity manners. So Miss Graham is white and she's a poet.
Okay.
It gave her house the foreign aid she liked to affect, for she was the core, the very heartbeat of the city's literary world. Michael Mary Graham was very considerate of Corinthians. When she had large dinner parties, a Swedish cook was hired, and the heavy work was done by the old white rummy she shared with the Goodwill Industries. Nor was she impatient with Corinthians' undistinguished everyday cooking, for Michael Mary ate several small plain meals. It was also a pleasure and a relief to have a maid who read and who seemed to be acquainted with some of the great masters of literature. So nice to give a maid a copy of Walden for Christmas, rather than that dreary envelope, and to be able to say so to her friends. In the world Michael Mary Graham inhabited, her mild liberalism, a residue of her bohemian youth, and her posture of sensitive lady poet, passed for anarchy. So I'll leave it at that.
Interesting.
I just
Okay.
really love the way that she describes characters, and
Yeah.
she helps us to really visualize and understand and see dynamics without preaching about them, just revealing them, in
Yeah.
these characters.
Yeah, there's like a fine balance, but like painting a scene and rather than like preaching about it and telling people what to feel about it, but like she paints like, you definitely already start to like develop feelings about
Yeah.
the characters and stuff. When is it set? The book set?
This is supposed to be, or this like current moment is, I think it's the late 50s, early 60s.
Okay.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carrie says he loves her reading voice. I know when I was listening to you reading, I'm like, man, I just rushed through mine. I guess I got nervous. I'm not used to like reading, but you were like nice and calm and you like told the story well.
Oh, thank you. I like reading aloud. I gotta say,
Yeah.
I didn't know that until I became a stepmother. I'm trying to figure out there's an orange tree that's right outside my window, and I've never seen this particular bird come to sit in the tree, and I was
Nice.
got a little distracted for a second.
Yeah.
Usually it's like hummingbirds or something like that, but this is, I think, a mockingbird. Unusual.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I became a stepmother, and our house was just sort of starting to gel. I have two stepdaughters, and at the time they were, when did that all happen? I think that maybe the younger one was about 7, and the older one was 10, I think, when, or somewhere around that age. Right away, I was like, oh, I really want to share some books with them. And I was like, they're never going to read these books, so I'm just going to start reading them aloud. And so we went through all the Little House on the Prairie books. We went through Heidi and Anne of Green Gables and Wrinkle in Time, and just like a whole lot of books. And I was like, oh, I actually like reading aloud. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now they're all grown up. They're like 17 and almost 21 now. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Claire, would you be so kind as to play us some music?
Oh yeah.
Would you play a song for us? Thank
Yeah.
you. And I just want to say hi to everybody who's watching. Thank you for being in here and really loving all the chats in the chat box. It's really fun to see your comments. So thank you.
I'm drinking from my
Wow.
gigantic bottle here.
I know that is. I'm hoping
It's
that's water.
Check out my jug. Sorry. I'm allowed to say that 'cause I'm a lady. Okay. Okay. So here you go. This is a song of mine called "Loveless Man." It's like, when I was 10, my mama loved a man who had no heart I couldn't understand. He didn't love my mama and he didn't love me, and my 10-year-old heart would break at the seams. My 2 years have gone by in your bed, and I realize that you're just like him. But there's a sickness in me that loves a sickness in you. Yeah, there's a sickness in me that I can't understand. 'Cause I love a loveless man. Now, mama, I understand. 'Cause I love a loveless man. Now, mama, I understand. Now, mama, I understand. What happened to your tough, your strong little girl? Well, she ended up like you in a loveless world. But there's a sickness in me that loves a sickness in him. Yeah, there's a sickness in me that I learned at 10. 'Cause I love a loveless man. Now, mama, I understand. 'Cause I love a loveless man. Now, mama, I understand. Now, mama, I understand. But mama, I can't take this no more. So I'm walking out that door. Oh mama, I won't take this no more. See me running, see me running. 'Cause I won't love
Thank you. I love your voice. It's so sweet. It's like, I mean, sweet is not the word that, I don't mean it sweet like candy sweet. I mean it just sweet in that slang way of saying sweet. It's a sweet voice. It's got so much texture to it, and yeah, just lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And powerful song too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing your song, Arielle.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to play, actually. I've been, I have the show tomorrow, and we're doing an in the round thing,
Stuff.
and so my head's been, like, okay, 4 of us, we're each playing a handful of songs, trying to figure out, that, this, and the other thing. And then this show started, I was like, oh, I haven't been thinking about what to play for today. That's okay. The capo is at the 2nd fret, so we're gonna go with a song
Nice.
at the
I'm gonna
2nd
mute
fret.
myself. Let me see.
I should mute myself too, because I have this nice airplane going overhead. Okay. Yeah, let's do this one. You stepped out in silhouette, barefoot, glowing, sounding out my name. Laughter and chatter, a splash, poolside band began to play. What can I say? 'Cause baby, you're not a fallback, a rebound, distraction, no flash in the pan. And baby, you're not a trinket, a trophy, a token to show on my hand. You are not the bottom of a bottle, a charm bracelet, bauble tangled with stars and horse. You're not a sweet drink, a Ferris wheel fling. You're everything worth waiting for. Underneath a canopy of branches, the shadows, dappled light of sun. It's gonna take my whole life to show you, you are the one. You are the one. 'Cause baby, you're not a fallback, a rebound, distraction, no flash in the pan. And baby, you're not a trinket, a trophy, a token to show on my hand. You are not the bottom of a bottle, a charm bracelet, bauble tangled with stars and horse. You're not a sweet drink, a Ferris wheel fling. You are everything. You are everything worth waiting for. Baby, you're not a at the bottom of a bottle, a charm bracelet bauble tangled with stars and a horse. You are not a sweet drink, a Ferris wheel fling. You are everything. You are everything. You are everything worth waiting for.
Woo, beautiful. That's such a sweet song. Like, man, if someone wrote that for me, I'd be like, yeah, that's the one. Did you write that for the person you're with?
Yeah. I was thinking about the day that we met,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is a weird thing for me, but one of the results of coming out of the pandemic or the experience of being in this whole weird time is that I have come out, I've emerged on this side of it anyway, writing love songs, which,
Yeah.
like real love songs that I, in my life, had never really understood. How do you, it felt too complicated. Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
so many, other like darknesses, I guess.
Yeah.
And then somehow on this side of COVID, I've just been writing, I don't know, I guess because I have spent this time with, the love of my life, and it's been
Yeah.
a really beautiful time. So, in that regard. So,
And love
yeah.
shouldn't be complicated, really, right? I guess, right? I mean, it is in life, but yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, we want it to be simple, right? But we
yeah.
are complicated.
We are complicated
creatures,
beings. Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you
But,
know.
but I think sometimes when it feels easier, that's when it's right. I don't know. But maybe.
yeah.
But of course, we're complicated creatures. Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah. And, I've been thinking a lot about the fact that, as, just me, forget about all the other billions of people in the world, just me, I have so many, day-to-day fluctuations, complications, histories, trying to understand and resolve tensions, like all of this stuff. And then I also want to love and be loved. And then
Yeah.
here comes my sweetheart with all of, those things in, that have come up in life on that side. And then, every other person, all of us in the world are all grappling with all of these things. And the fact that, there can even be such a thing as simple love. It's like maybe simple moments in love.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a miracle.
Life is crazy.
It
Yeah.
is. It's hard. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
just trying to make our way.
That's right.
Claire, so you have a Hotel Cafe show on August 6th.
Yeah, August 6th.
That's a Friday.
Yeah, Friday. There's tickets. I put a link on my website, claremeans.com,
Great.
and they're on the Hotel Cafe website. But yeah, on my website, I update it now. So if you click on the flyer on my website, you'll see tickets for attending in person or attending or watching. If you're not in Los Angeles, if you want to watch the live stream and buy tickets for that, that'd be amazing and also super supportive. And yeah, I'm excited to be playing with the band. And it's my first band gig, my first singer-songwriter club gig since COVID,
Yeah.
since before COVID. So I'm really excited. And my first gig back in Los Angeles forever. So I'm really excited for it. And yeah,
So
if
you're
anybody's
playing that
coming.
show with a band, which
Yeah.
means there's rehearsal before the show.
Yeah. We got to do rehearsal. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll see.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people a lot of performers, I don't know that audience members are thinking about this, but for most of us, we have not been practicing and playing and rehearsing with other people. So now that the shows are coming back onto the schedule, it's like, oh yeah, we got to rehearse. Like we have not played
Yeah.
together for a year and a half or more,
I know. I did a live stream show for Hotel Cafe with a cellist, a violinist my friend is a piano and bassist. Or no, he just played piano at that gig actually. So yeah, we did it like COVID empty room Hotel Cafe gig
Yeah.
to raise money for them or whatever in October. So that was interesting.
Okay, so
but
yeah.
but that was harder, like rehearsing and stuff, or being careful with COVID and everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They wore masks on stage and stuff. So this is at least a little easier now that
Yeah.
I think everybody, is vaccinated. I mean, well, everybody in the band. And hopefully everybody that comes to the show is, because I don't know. I'm hoping
Yeah,
with all
hey,
the variants and
folks,
stuff.
let's just use this as a moment, a
Yes.
PSA. Hey, folks, get vaccinated, be vaccinated, so that you can
Yeah.
come and enjoy live shows, and so that the performers are not nervous, your fellow
I'm still-
attendees are not nervous, right?
Yeah.
Like,
With
let's all
the
keep each other
variants and
safe.
stuff. I'm still like,
Yeah.
but if everybody's vaccinated, I feel a little better about it.
Carrie wants to know if you're adding a cowbell player. And by the way, Carrie Vernon, thank you so much for all of your kind words. Really appreciate your
I know,
chat.
that is so sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
That is awesome, Carrie. Yeah, definitely. Lots of cowbell at the show. Lots of cowbell. There's going to be a whole cowbell solo. He'll just be, cowbelling away.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay. Claire, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
on
thank
the
you so much
show.
for having
This
me,
has
Ariel.
been
That's
great.
really fun.
I'll say goodbye to you in the green room, and I'll say
Okay.
goodbye to everybody else right here. Thank you so much for being a part of this 60th episode with Clare Means. Such a delightful conversation, and really interesting to hear these stories about busking. It kind of brought me back to my days in Boston on the street there. I want to tell you that if you are looking for music tomorrow night, Friday night, I am playing at the Ojai Underground Exchange, and I'm going to be doing a Women of Americana show with 3 phenomenal singer-songwriters from the Los Angeles area. Celia Chavez is part of Petty Chavez, if you know that band. Just a beautiful singer, great songwriter. Pi Jacobs, she is just in the middle of releasing some new singles, and she has an album coming out on Blackbird Records, and just awesome as well. She's also, like me, a writer, which is pretty cool, songs and stories, so maybe she'll bring in some stories to the stage. And Manda Mosher, I don't know how many LA Music Awards she has won. I think like 7, something like that, ridiculous. She is amazing, a beloved performer in this area and beyond, and really like kind of, just creating a whole California country and Americana world here in California. So I hope you will come out and see us all play at the Ojai Underground Exchange. And there are online tickets for the live stream part, and also in-venue tickets. So you can, depending on where you are and your feeling about all that stuff, you can do that. And what else do I have to tell you? Please stay in touch with me. You can find me everywhere at that linktree/ArielleSilver, and we can stay in touch. And next week, I have Ben Grace on the show. He is an Australian singer-songwriter, and he is living, I think, in San Diego at the moment. Wonderful guy, also wonderful songwriter. So excited for next week. I will see you then. Take good care.